Most people think the path to getting ahead financially is pretty simple. Work hard, get a raise, repeat. And sure, income matters. But here's the thing. I've watched plenty of people earn really good money their entire careers and still end up with almost nothing to show for it. And I've watched other people, making far less early on, quietly build something that eventually put them in a completely different category. The difference isn't luck. It's not even talent. It's a handful of specific moves, made at the right time, in the right order. Today I want to walk you through 10 of those moves. And I'll be honest with you, some of these sound simple on the surface, but simple isn't the same as easy. And it definitely isn't the same as common. Most people never actually do these things. So if you walk away from this video and apply even 3 or 4 of them, you're already ahead of the overwhelming majority of people around you. Let's start with one that reshapes everything else. Stop tracking your income. Start tracking your net worth. This sounds like a small shift, but psychologically it changes almost everything. When income is your measuring stick, you start chasing it. More hours, a bigger title, a better salary. You focus on how much money flows in. But income tells you how much passes through your hands, not how much stays. Net worth is the honest number. It's everything you own minus everything you owe. And the moment you start checking that number regularly, you start making different decisions. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" you start asking, "Does this move my net worth forward or backward?" That one question, consistently applied, leads to very different choices over years. You start directing money toward things that build, assets, skills, equity, and you get a lot more careful about debt. Not all debt is bad, but debt that funds comfort while your net worth stagnates is quietly working against you. Which brings me to move 2. Avoiding lifestyle inflation on your very first income jump. This is the one most people blow. You finally get a real raise. Maybe your first job out of school, maybe a promotion, maybe a side income that starts actually adding up. And almost immediately, the spending expands to match it. Nicer apartment, better car, more eating out, more of everything. And within a few months, the raise is completely absorbed. You're back to feeling tight. Here's why that first jump is so critical. It sets your baseline. It creates your new normal. If your expenses expand the moment your income does, you've just traded one financial ceiling for another. The move is to let your income grow while your lifestyle stays put, at least temporarily. That gap between what you earn and what you spend is where wealth actually begins. Every future money move depends on creating and protecting that gap. So if lifestyle shouldn't go up yet, what should? Move 3. Buy assets before upgrading your life. Now, when I say assets, I don't mean you need to go out and buy stock or investment property right away. Think of it more broadly. An asset is anything that improves your position, financially, professionally, in terms of output or capability. When income increases by a few $100s, you probably can't buy a meaningful financial asset yet. But you absolutely can buy something that makes you better at what you do. Faster, sharper, more capable. Maybe that's a course in a skill that's currently hard to find. Maybe it's a tool that removes friction from your work. Maybe it's something that lets you produce more in the same amount of time. These purchases don't generate cash flow next month, but they increase your output, and output leads to income. The people who invest in their earning engine early tend to pull away from their peers over time. Not immediately, but steadily. Speaking of earning engines, move 4 is choosing skill leverage over salary growth. A salary has a ceiling. You can climb the ladder, sure, but you're not the one who decides how fast or how high. You're always waiting for someone above you to approve the next step. Skill leverage works completely differently. Some skills multiply your output: communication, sales, negotiation, systems thinking, technical depth in an area that's genuinely hard to find. When these compound together, an hour of your effort produces more than it used to. The market starts valuing you independently, not just your current employer. The salary path depends on permission. Promotions, budgets, manager decisions. The skill path builds independence. And that independence is what creates options. Options to change jobs with leverage. Options to go out on your own. Options to negotiate from a position of strength rather than desperation. Most people wait for their employer to invest in their skills. The people who pull ahead invest in themselves first. Move 5. Negotiate equity, not just pay. Salary pays you for right now. Equity pays you for what gets built. And the difference in long-term outcome is enormous. When you own a piece of something, a share in a company, a revenue stake, a profit interest, you participate in its growth. You're not just getting paid for your time anymore. You're getting paid for the outcome. Most of the biggest financial jumps people experience don't come from raises. They come from ownership moments. Stock grants that vest when a company succeeds. Revenue shares that compound as a business grows. Small stakes in early-stage projects that become valuable over time. One of those moments can outweigh a decade of steady salary increases. So when you're negotiating a role or a partnership, train yourself to ask, is there any ownership here? Most people never ask, which means it's almost never offered. Move 6 is one that most people underestimate. Get closer to capital. Money behaves very differently depending on where you're standing relative to it. If you're far from it, you earn it slowly. Hour by hour, project by project. Progress depends entirely on your effort, and effort has limits. But when you're close to it, when you're in environments where capital actually moves, you start to see something completely different. You see how investment decisions get made, where money flows, how value gets created at scale. Most people spend their whole careers executing tasks in environments where money is earned and spent, but never really allocated. The people who advance financially tend to position themselves where the big decisions happen. That might mean working in industries where investment activity is constant, being part of projects tied to growth or expansion, being around people who deploy capital, not just collect paychecks. Proximity changes your understanding, and understanding changes what becomes possible for you. Move 7 is about taking the right kinds of risk, specifically asymmetric risk. An asymmetric bet is one where the downside is limited, but the upside is potentially life-changing. Think about spending a few hundred hours learning a rare, in-demand skill. Worst case, you gained knowledge. Best case, you doubled your earning potential. Think about starting a side project with minimal capital. Worst case, you lose some time and a little money. Best case, you've opened a new income stream or a business. Most people avoid these bets because the outcome is uncertain. They prefer the predictable path. Stable job, known paycheck, clear steps. And there's nothing wrong with stability, but it rarely creates separation from the pack. Asymmetric bets introduce the possibility of a nonlinear jump. Someone joins an early-stage company when it's still small. Salary is modest. But if it succeeds, the equity outcome can be extraordinary. Someone builds an audience around a niche skill. It grows slowly, then suddenly opens doors. The pattern is always the same: limited exposure, outsized potential. Move 8 is something that sounds obvious but gets misapplied constantly. Use debt for acquisition, not consumption. Most people experience debt as something that drains their future. Credit cards, car loans, buy now, pay later. The benefit happens right now. The payments happen for years. And those payments quietly erode flexibility, savings, and options. That's consumption debt. It funds comfort in the present at the expense of the future. Acquisition debt works the opposite way. It funds something that can grow in value, generate income, or strengthen your financial position over time. The principle is straightforward. If the thing you're borrowing for is going to generate money or meaningful long-term value, the debt is working with you. If it's just improving your comfort level right now, the debt is working against you. This isn't a hard rule. Plenty of acquisition debt carries real risk, and markets can shift. But the intention matters. Ask yourself, honestly, is this debt building something, or is it just making today feel a little easier? Move 9. Start entering rooms that are above your current level. Your environment has an enormous influence on what feels possible to you. When everyone around you is working the same types of jobs, dealing with the same types of problems, earning in the same range, that becomes your reference point for what's normal. And without realizing it, that becomes your ceiling. Everything shifts when you start showing up in rooms where people are operating one level above you. It's uncomfortable at first. You feel like you don't quite belong, like everyone else has figured something out that you haven't. But here's what I've found to be true. Almost nobody feels like they completely belong. The people who grow fastest in those environments aren't the ones pretending to have all the answers. They're the ones who stay genuinely curious, ask real questions, and keep absorbing everything around them. Over time, you stop feeling like an outsider. You start contributing. You start making connections. You start bringing value. And eventually, you'll notice someone new walk in looking exactly the way you once did. And then there's move 10, the one everything else is building toward, transitioning from labor to ownership. Every move we've talked about, tracking net worth, protecting the income gap, buying assets, building leverage, acquiring equity, getting close to capital, taking smart asymmetric bets, using debt strategically, surrounding yourself with people operating at a higher level. All of it is pointing in the same direction. The moment when what you own generates more for you than you could generate by working. Most people never make this step. They stay in labor their whole lives. More experience, more responsibility, more income, but always dependent on showing up and continuing to work. Ownership is what breaks that dependency. It's the point where your money works instead of just you. And it's not some impossible destination reserved for the ultra-wealthy. It's a threshold that becomes reachable when you've made the right moves consistently, over time. The honest truth is that none of these 10 things are secrets. You've probably heard versions of most of them before. But knowing and doing are completely different things. Most people hear these ideas, nod, and then keep doing exactly what they were doing. A smaller group actually applies them. Not all at once, not perfectly, but consistently. And over 5, 10, 15 years, the gap between those two groups becomes enormous. You don't have to be in the first group. Pick one of these moves that feels most relevant to where you are right now. Get that one right, then pick another. That's how it actually works. Not some dramatic overnight transformation, but a series of deliberate choices that slowly, and then suddenly, put you in a very different place. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more content.